As seen by the title today, we're discussing unconventional fashion inspo. Now, as much as I love getting fashion inspiration from Pinterest, social media, and influencers, there are so many other places and people where it actually comes from. So today we talk about the unsung heroes of fashion, where some fashion inspo actually stems from, and most importantly, if you can find fashion inspo beyond the digital age. So I will say this is a little bit for the history major in me. While we are going to be talking about the trends and where they stem from, I also want to give little historical aspects of why the item exists in the first place. Of course, I have to talk about farmers first. Where to even begin? First, let's discuss a little history of the overall, which has been a classic staple in the farmer wardrobe for years, and likewise, every fashionista. So there's no set in time where overalls began, but let's address a little bit of the highlights. First and foremost, the term overalls actually used to be conflated with jeans and pants in the 1700s. So in the mid 1700s, the British East India Company founded a trading post in the city of Dongri, where British merchants became familiar with a durable calico cloth produced by textile makers. Now, the tough textile was commonly referred to as dongari and would inspire what we know as dungarees. Now, by the 1830s, we would know overalls as what they are today, and denim would be the dominant material used due to no other than Levi Strauss. As overalls were worn more frequently by different industries, brands also began color coding them, which, I'm obsessed with. Each worker actually got a different color coding system. So painters and carpenters had white, railroad workers had hickory striped overalls, and agriculture and construction laborers went with blue denim. My favorite part about this is, without even knowing whatever overall that you tend to move towards, I know a lot of girls tend to like the hickory and white. I think that's so fun that you're kind of wearing something based off history. Now, with that little history lesson done, I also want to talk about farmer accessories because the rise in the garden clog, rain boot, and straw hats has definitely been around in like 2024 and mostly 2025. I don't know if you've seen, but these like the Gardana clog, it's like all over Pinterest for some reason. I think it's made out of hemp, so I think that's also a really good pro to it. But I find it really funny to see like city girls wearing clogs, wearing specifically garden clogs, because I feel like you'd really wear them kind of gardening or in more of a nature-based city. But I can also get behind them, especially because of rain, and a nice clog can really combat that, which is why rain boots, I'm so pro people like owning and wearing, especially if you buy them secondhand or thrift them. I see so many on Depop and Poshmark that are really affordable, and you can even get hunter boots if you kind of care about the brand and durability of it. And most importantly, the straw hat. I've seen so many people wearing them, and I do think it's a great hat for anyone, as farmers would typically wear them to cover their shoulders, ears, and head. And the hats were meant to be lightweight and airy, so you could wear it during a summer day. And I think the applicability of a farmer wearing it to someone wearing it and anywhere they need to be that's hot during summer is perfect. Are we surprised to see old people on this list? I can assume not. I know this has been a big conversation for a lot of people recently. But let's talk about old men first. I feel like loafers have taken over the world, from the chunky loafer in 2020 to now the penny loafer in 2025. Let's just say it, they've been around. But not because of the 20-something-year-old girl. No, no, no. Because of your granddad. Now, loafers actually originated in Norway during the 19th century for fishermen, but they were kind of more moccasin like. If you've ever looked for a pair of loafers, you've probably seen J.H. Bass, and they're called the Weejuns. Now, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, yes, the name Weejuan comes from Norwegian because of where they originated. By 1936, J.H. Bass went to market with the Weejuan loafer, but wanted to be more fashion forward, which led to a strap across the top of the shoe with a center that was the perfect size for a penny. And let's just say it was the perfect detail because a payphone only cost a penny back then. I also think just like the complete looks from older men is something we can definitely take. I love the look of an oversized blazer or those patterned suits. And as you can see with them, those items are worn in and just look comfortable and have like melded to their bodies, which is a good reminder to just try and keep your pieces for a longer time. Right now, with the new And Just Like That versus in Sex and the City, I won't get into discussion on the show, but we see Carrie wearing that one crazy outfit with that top and then wearing it again now and like from like 2002 to now 2025. I just think it's cooler when you've kept a piece for so long and you're able to kind of fit it and like mold it into who you are now as a person versus when you were before. And I don't think a lot of influencers necessarily do that. And not due to any issue that they have, but part of their job is getting so many clothing and trying to keep up on the date on the newest trends. So they're almost always wearing new things that you don't always get to see them kind of have those items that they've had for so many years and like this is why I've worn it. Like it's something I absolutely love. And of course, I had to show the fisherman sweater because I feel like that's a classic grandpa shirt. But unfortunately for me, I do always think about Rory Gilmore when I hear the word fisherman sweater. Cannot help it. It's just that first episode and her in that sweater. I'm like, heck, freaking yes. I love it. I want it. I'm determined to knit it for myself. You thought I wouldn't talk about the ultimate grandpa shoe, the ultimate dad shoe, as we know, the beloved New Balance. You know what? Dare I say that I'm like an old man because I've had a pair of New Balances for over 8 years now. You know that one meme? I think about this photo all the time. And that's how I feel about my New Balances. Just it's not just a granddad shoe, it's also a grandma shoe. I love just seeing a New Balance that's worn, and I think that is actually what the conversation should be about, rather than it being like the dad shoe. It's who's had their New Balances for so many years. Because you know what, they're comfortable and they last for a long time. And so on the conversation of older women, I had to show this first. It's the silver hair to silver jewelry. I am in love. I mean, I also think just women with gray hair always look so beautiful. It's just, your hair's changed. That means nothing, but it's just so awesome to look at. I think it's something to be said that women shouldn't be feel compelled to have plastic surgery or try and keep up with a certain status quo by dyeing their hair. And so that's definitely a conversation for another video for sure. But I think it's beautiful to see the aging hair, and I absolutely love it when you see it in photos and women are still being themselves, wearing outfits that inspire them. It inspires me as a person too, to know that when I'm older I can still dress however the heck I want, and that's no one's business but my own. I think it's been super weird to see influencers doing videos of their like new Birkin bags, for example, where they're trying to break them in by stepping on them or like ripping them. It's like just wear it in, wear the item in. I think a lot more of us held the mentality that if we care for and use the piece we have for years, that it will kind of fit and mold to us and show our lives. I think then we would be a lot less inclined to buy more pieces. But I also think there's this issue where we buy so much and have this over consumerism where we don't necessarily just have one bag. So you don't get to reuse the same bag over and over again and show that it's been lived through and like something you've had for so many years. And I think that'd be a really good mentality for us to have, that if we have that one piece and keep it with us, that we don't need to necessarily break it in. Ahoy! I am talking about sailors. Because I see a lot of girls on Pinterest right now wearing the Dixie Cup hats, and I wanted to discuss where that really stems from. So, another history lesson. Sailor uniforms in their most traditional form were worn by enlisted seamen in the Navy and was known as the number one in England. But what I absolutely love about the sailor uniform is that it quickly moved from being just a sailor uniform to an actual fashion trend in England during the 19th century. So after this point, they were used as school uniforms, became a normal outfit for young children all around the world. And in 1904, Harper's Bazaar called a sailor suit the most serviceable all-around frock a girl can have. Another more directly feminine version of the sailor suit, the sailor dress, was popularly known in early 20th century. And something I love about this is just the fact that since its inception, people have loved the sailor uniform. I think like the fact that by the 20th century it's had its own trend, and now we're in the 21st century and suddenly yet again it's having its own moment of people loving the Dixie Cup sailor hat, or even just the little scarf that they had around them. I see this one from Bodie, so expensive but so beautifully constructed and made. I think it's really cool to see how uniforms have such an impact on people, because yet again, us as the average consumer tends to have so many things in our closet, but at the end of the day, we can't help but kind of grasp back at uniforms, because there is this sense of not having to think about what to wear every day if we have the same item in our wardrobe. Now, while we have talked about groups of people, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the most important group of all, animals. I mean, when it comes to animals, we have animal print from cheetah to leopard to cow to zebra. But we can't even acknowledge the fact that they only exist as prints. They also have been used by humans as fashion. We can look at fur coats, or how crocodiles have been used to make cowboy boots, for example, or even for bags. It's clear that animals have had such an impact on the fashion industry and have not only inspired clothing but have actually been used for garments. And I think as we've kind of seen people move away from using animals for those garments, more awareness to its impact. I think it's absolutely hilarious to see that now the literal thing is just being printed on items. I absolutely adore it. I mean, I love this one from Tyler McGillivray. it's just a horse print on a skirt. And listen, I'm not making fun of that at all, because I do own a wool sweater that has a little horse on it, and I absolutely adore it. But I just think it's so cool to see the ways in which animals to print to use to now just being smacked onto items has, been going on throughout the years. And I think we'll never stop seeing animals and their impact on the fashion industry. Of course, I want to talk about construction workers and carpenters. I mean, I think you can clearly guess where I'm going when I say the word carpenter. Suddenly we're talking carpenter pant, a staple now in streetwear. But more importantly, its emergence in the 1970s was based purely on the needs of construction workers for ample pocket space for tools and the freedom of movement with a material that was sturdy enough to handle the challenges of the job. It wasn't until the 1990s that these utilitarian pants made its way to streetwear and became not just for the blue collar worker, but also for street style and skater culture as well. And if we're talking carpenter and construction workers, we cannot fail to discuss Carhartt, which also had a similar progression to carpenter pants. It began in 1889, where Hamilton Carhartt created the Carhartt bib overall during the rise of the steel industry as quality workwear under the motto honest value for an honest dollar. And by the 1990s, the outside blue collar trades extended to the hip hop and music industry. I think from my perspective, I find it so incredibly cool how something that was utilitarian and functionality eventually moves itself into aesthetic purposes. I'm fascinated by it. And I would love to like figure out the reason why, but I think it's just the fact that you see so many people in the same thing and eventually you want to try it out, which I think like kind of relates to social media now. You see so many people in the same item, and that's what a trend is at the end of the day, that you kind of want to test it out. I don't know. That's not full-fledged out idea or anything, but really cool to think about. I mean, it's summer, so I always have to talk about mermaids in the ocean. Now, whenever summer rolls around, I feel like we have all these mermaid-esque conversations and sirens. I think it's really the impact of the ocean. I think of seashells, I think of pearls, I think of sea glass. All these things have such an impact in fashion, especially during the summer. I think we've been seeing so many of these kind of shell skirts that have come up. I've seen a lot of people kind of make the same inspired look at the shell skirt, and I absolutely love this creator who basically made this oyster jacket. And like it took her for ages to make it, because she would basically, when she would go to restaurants, she would eat her oysters and then get her friends to bring them over to her. And I think that's a really conscientious way to not really have a negative impact on the ocean. Obviously the eating of the animal, but I think it's really kind of eco-friendly, and it just turned out amazingly. I am so obsessed with it. I think when you have summer, you're always going to have the ocean really factoring and influencing fashion trends. Even if it's not a complete replica of something with seashells, the colors from the ocean and sea glass are always going to kind of influence what we end up wearing, or the tropics. And I love that it's not just people, but also things. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail for this, because I feel like the medieval knights and the Renaissance have kind of begun to have conversations about it, because I think it's more so describing potential trends that could arise from it rather than people already doing it, which is why I wanted to bring up chainmail for a second. If you need a description of what chainmail is, right here. I think if we think about the Chapel Roan concert that happened for, I think it was the Grammys. I never remember what award shows it, like which one, but she did her entire medieval knight look for her show, and I think that's really going to have an influence on kind of trends in 2026, and we're going to see kind of that Renaissance medieval knight kind of foundation coming through. I've seen people kind of do chainmail even like for Coachella, like, and influenced by it, and I think it's really cool to see what might happen with it, because metal is freaking heavy, which is why I'm not surprised we're not seeing anything about it right now since it's summer. Curious what's going to happen in the winter time when the runway shows come out for 2026. I don't know. Maybe I'll be right. Maybe I won't. Who knows? And also, let me literally call out my own outfit for a second. I'm quite literally wearing a rugby polo. That's hilarious, because obviously we can talk about rugby players and their impact on that. But this is from Cotton. I absolutely love it. Shout out the rugby players for getting me in on this, because I would not have ever known what this is without them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you ever feel like, you can't find the right fashion inspo on social media or Pinterest, you could always look out in the real world and look at other people and things, and maybe that will be something that will inspire you. Let me know if there's anything that I didn't address that kind of inspires you on your day to day, and subscribe if you're feeling crazy. I don't know, but I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.